Section 2 of Article 8 of the State Constitution of 1963 requires that the legislature shall maintain and support a system of free public elementary and secondary schools as defined by law. The section further requires that every school district shall provide for the free education of its pupils without discrimination as to religion, creed, race, color, or national origin. Under the state constitution of 1963, longstanding state law and federal law, Michigan children have the right to a free quality education and equitable public education. Mr. Speaker, the greatest challenge I see with this package of bills before us tonight is the enormous inequity that this divisive policy creates for children in Michigan's largest school district. We're not living up to the responsibility of our Constitution. In fact, policies that continue to be created in this chamber prohibit Detroit Public Schools from living up to what our Constitution requires. However, the environment that was set long before many of you got here helped to shape this. But I must say, after discussion with some of you just today, with our leader, our speaker, I'm disappointed. You had an opportunity to write history with leadership that put children first, not politics. We're a country that invites all. We speak of democracy, yet we don't uphold it. We invite immigrants to come into this country with the promise of equity, yet people who have been here for centuries, for years, we now cast away as if they are undeserving of a free, quality education. They've been, yes, failed by adults, many of the adults that have graced this chamber by policies that pit us against each other. But it's not just this chamber. Many of you know that I served on the Coalition for the Future of Detroit School Children. And so I blame even that process. That process was flawed. People from foundations organizing people across the state to come to the table. In many regards, they left out the grassroots. They left out the people who were elected to the school board. They left out the voices of the people in the district to speak to the things that they wanted. They had access to the governor. They could speak to the leader in both chambers. They had the ability to hire lobbyists. They spent money for over a year, maybe two, to get us to these set of recommendations that they thought we would somehow just adopt and advance and push forward. But I made it crystal clear, although I served on the coalition, I am a Detroit public school teacher. I took an oath. I hold up a creed of doing no harm. And if at any point I saw the recommendations put forward would compromise what I believe in as an educator, I would be willing to step away. And that I did. Now I'm just getting to know many of you on both sides of the aisle. And so many of you don't understand perhaps the style in which I advocate for children. Not just Detroit children, all children. These policies are flawed. They will do nothing to improve the academic trajectory of our children. They're fiscally irresponsible. Yeah, it'll give you something to make you feel like you did something before we go on break. It'll give that extra boost of dollars to put that in place, but it won't hold in check the over-proliferation of charters. Now, I started my teaching career in a charter, and I ended my teaching career in a charter, and so I've spoke about this before. I don't see a whole lot of differences between a number of them. Yes, we need to improve academic achievement in all of them. This is the dumbing down of America if we don't improve quality in all of them. But the way in which we advance policy, develop policy, shape policy, we're never going to get there. We have a C- nationally. Our ranking is 35th in the nation. We should all hang our heads in shame, knowing that in this chamber, we have the ability to advance policy that will create scholars. But instead, we go in our respective caucus rooms, in our respective offices, with only those people we're willing to negotiate with and talk with. And then we develop policies that put children last and politics first. This shouldn't sell well in nobody's district. I'm sure all of you have some teachers in your district. I receive calls, emails, text messages, inbox messages, tweets from teachers all across the state of Michigan that feel they've been left behind, that feel they're treated as second-class citizens, that feel that they can't make it on the amount of money that they're being paid. Where the hell is the adequacy study that we paid for when we passed that jacked up road package? It was due on March 31st. It's still not here. DPS has the lion's share of special ed students, and most traditional public schools do. But are we looking at weighted funding to address their problem? Are we looking at how much it really costs to educate our children, both special needs and those with traditional learning styles? No. We're simply drawing lines in the sand that make us feel good as adults, but not moving the needle on instruction. There's a direct correlation between poverty and low academic attainment levels. If we're not willing to address poverty, again, that was helped shaped by our housing patterns, the lack of segregation and then moving to busing. There are large African American populated cities, urban cities, that were created by policies based on racism. Again, I'm not calling anyone a racist, but what I'm saying is we must be honest in Michigan about our issues with race and how it impedes our ability to truly advance policies that moves Michigan forward. This is the largest school district, but it's not going to stop in Detroit. Today marks history where we continue to erode traditional public education throughout our state. Yes, if it can happen in Detroit, ultimately it will happen in Livonia. It will happen in West Bloomfield. It will happen in Southfield. In all of those contiguous districts to Detroit, the big conversation about an accountability framework, whether it's a DEC, whether it's certificate of need, whether it's charter authorizers authorizing themselves or sanctioning themselves, we need something so both styles of education can coexist. These bills don't do that. And if we're waiting on the state school reform office that was moved under DTMB by the governor wrongfully, where we have a person there in the name of Natasha Baker that received $100,000 to open a charter school and we don't know where that is, are we depending on her and her team to close poor performing schools? But we're only seeking to close those that are traditional public DPS schools. Are we going to close the poor performing charters? We haven't done so yet. DPS has undergone more school closures under emergency managers and Rick Snyder than any other time in history. Let's be clear. This financial deficit was created under state control. It's unconstitutional what's been done under 5 emergency managers, simply slipping Judge Rhodes now into the role of a transitional manager as a placeholder to prevent the now school board from being re-empowered is nothing but a wraparound of democracy. And we think that's okay? Yes, you have the numbers again to simply get it done. But it's wrong, it's unjust, and it will not move Michigan forward. It will further erode our schools and our local municipalities, and it will not do anything to improve or move the needle on academic achievement. It's fiscally irresponsible. We'll be back here again. But again, I'm not just blaming all of you. I'm blaming a number of people in my community too. They know who they are. I take issue with a number of them that could have spoken up before now, that could have helped to make sure that this was a balanced plan. But many stood on the sideline, former electeds and the like, and didn't take their role of responsibility to get this thing right either. Some of them in their own individual deals helped us get here. After all, who in the hell voted for EAA? Some of them helped us get here. But I say in the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends. So those that are in my community, those that have made it out of my community, I don't only hold my Republican brothers and sisters accountable for this destructive package of bills, I hold each and every one of you who've been silent responsible for the destruction of public education throughout the state of Michigan. I ask you to vote no on these bills.